I ended up actually getting some insight into how LLMs work, from the text extraction to the embedding to the vector database to the tokenization aspect of it to the call sign similarity. It was really, really interesting. I remember going on the company retreat, and because I was new, they asked me if I wanted to present to anything to kind of, break the ice and have people get to know me a bit. And I was like, you know what? We're in LLMs right now. We're in the whole AI thing right now. Let me just present this stupid project I put together, this rickety-rackety chatbot. And I actually did that. I presented it. I showed them, like, here's what I'm learning. Because that's basically what it was. It was a learning experience. It wasn't for me to become an expert in chatbot and start selling an app. It was for me to kind of test and also study how these LLMs work. I highly recommend every SEO right now, and you're doing it already, Crystal. You're seeing the benefits from actually experimenting with these platforms, and I'm pretty sure you're learning new things as well. But I recommend every SEO right now. I honestly believe this is what you need to be doing, even if you do it at a small scale, even if what you're doing is trying to automate a certain process. You're not trying to build anything like what I was building, but even if you're just trying to test the smallest of things, I think it's worth doing it.
Welcome to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast. I'm your host, Waddell, here to bridge the gap between SEO strategy and real-world business success. Whether you're an entrepreneur, marketer, or SEO enthusiast, this is your place to learn, share, and build a brand that stands out. So grab a coffee or your favorite tea, and let's dive into smarter SEO for your business.
To kind of see me go through this, having no knowledge of what I'm doing. So I'm like, just relying on ChatGPT, honest. And I was still able to create it and test it and use it. And I was able to present it even to my team at Chartis when I first started the job. And like, for example, I was doing semantic triples a few weeks ago. I wanted to see, can I extract semantic triples from content? And what does that look like? Because I was coming part of the conversation about like how you optimize for LLMs. And one of the things I figured out was like, once I got the output, I realized, well, there's nothing you can do with an isolated data of just semantic triples. They're not really built for that. And just to give a little bit of information what semantic triples are, they're basically textual structured data. They're the object, predicate, and subject, or the subject, predicate, and object, something like that. And they're just basically structured data on text. And they're supposed to provide meaning to an object. So what you're basically trying to describe. Somebody mentioned this on LinkedIn. They're really good for maybe like a glossary page. But when you look at it as your content strategy, an isolated audit of semantic triples is not enough. There needs to be so much more, because I noticed semantic triples would not take into account, first of all, whether the content is accurate. And it also won't take into account the subtle nuances there are in writing. Maybe there's a slogan or something that the client has, a message that the client is trying to give, and it won't necessarily pick up on those things. Mm-hmm. So on its own, I learned there's really not much you can do with auditing semantic triples. So it's like now you have to be creative and learn more about what structured data is, what meaning is, what context is, and et cetera.
I understand the concept of semantic triples. It was last year when my son was doing his English assignment. They were talking about subject and predicate. And I was reading something that Michael King wrote. And of course, like going through it with ChatGPT to explain it to me like I'm a third grader. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the structure that the computers understand. And so even though I think it's stupid and I don't really understand it either, it's like, I need to go back to the fundamentals of the English language so I can understand the translation model that it's using to get into the LLMs. It's just such a great point that the more you play around with it and in it, then you can start connecting the dots. I also joke that our chat GPTs and, Gemini's, whatever, they just look like our Canvas. I don't know about you, but my Canva is a hot mess, and now chat GPT's the same way. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way.
I mean, yeah, it is exciting. I mean, these things, they are imperfect. They make mistakes. They give you sometimes the wrong information. And so you have to take the good with the bad. That's how I see it. You have to take the good with the bad, or you have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. The ugly being how, terrible this can be to our environment the more we use it. And then you have the bad, which is like the misinformation that sometimes you can get, or the wrong or inaccurate information that you can get from it. But the good is the learning that you're getting from it too. So if you're considering doing this, you have to sometimes just be okay with knowing that you're not going to know everything right away. If you're trying something for the first time, for example, vibe coding, or trying to understand semantic triples, or even query fan out, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Cut yourself some slack and give yourself the opportunity to just go with it. Just go with it. You're already working with it. Think about it when you're in a pizza making class. Funny enough, our company had a outing last week and we went to make pizza together. It's almost like a similar process. A lot of us there weren't pizza experts. We don't own a pizza. We don't know anything about the process of pizza making. We wouldn't know the ingredients to use unless somebody tell us or we look it up. We're not expert in that field. But here we are taking instructions from an expert, taking instruction from someone who does, and just going with it. You're having fun. You're going with it. So you got to kind of apply that same mentality and approach to this thing too. Don't go in it thinking, oh, I have to be an expert. Go in it thinking I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
And if this thing gets something inaccurate, I learned that it's inaccurate, and then I could go to actual written documents from humans that can help me correct this. And you can continue learning from there.
I'm a Shopify store owner and I've got this huge list of things to do. How do I balance my learning time with I got to make money time? And then, the other part of it is like, oh, if I have clients, how do you explain to your client, hey, I'm going to need you to pay me to play around here a little bit and experiment and have some learning time? How do you frame that so that everybody gets on board?
It's so funny because you're literally preaching to the choir. I've been struggling with time as well. Like, how do I apply time? It's a whole different situation with me because my job depends to an extent for me to kind of learn these things, to adapt to these things, to get comfortable with these tools. And so because my job depends on it, I could find ways to kind of apply that training to a task that I'm doing and merge them both together. I was talking to, so funny, you're bringing up a lot of conversations I've been having the past couple of days, but I was actually talking to one of my colleagues about this. And I don't know if you ever heard of the term Ikigai. I know very little about it, but I've been reading about it. It's basically a Japanese term, and it is a framework or a philosophy to help you find your purpose and your center.
I've heard of it. And I don't know if someone on the podcast talked about it, but yes, I have heard of it. Very cool.
Yeah. And I remember coming across it on YouTube because YouTube is my platform and, hope to talk about it a little bit here. But I definitely feel like I applied that kind of philosophy to what I'm doing because when you have a list of 100 things that you need to do, either you have multiple interests or you have tons of important things. When you list them and you create kind of like little bubbles of them or little cards of them and you start lining them up, you start seeing that some of those things overlap and you can combine them and say, okay, these two, let's say you have like two little cards or whatever of two different interests. You can find a way to combine them. So that was what worked for me. So I'm pretty sure that this can be applied to anyone right now struggling to try to prioritize where their time should be spent the most, or whether they're overthinking it because it's all in their head. It is not on paper. And so when it's all in your head, it can be confusing. It could be daunting. It could be almost overwhelming. But when you put all of your interests in all the things you have to do, you can find that some of them overlap and you can do them together. So that's one of the things I'm doing right now. I told my boss at Chartis, I was like, assume everything I'm doing is going through some form of LLM process. If it's client confidentiality, the documents, obviously, those are not. So I got to find workarounds around that because I'm very adamant of responsible AI and the responsible use of AI. And client information is not something that we at Chartis do. So being very smart and very and very cautious of that is very important. But assume that the research process or auditing process of open source information, I am definitely going to prove to some process, even if it takes me all day. But that's where the practice come in. I've been doing this already, the vibe coding already for the past year nonstop. And so for me, I'm comfortable with doing that. But you got to get started someday, right? We all got to start somewhere. So you might as well just start now and trying to find where can I overlap this new skill that I need to learn with things that I already have to do that I need to do. So that way I could cut the time in half.
Yeah, I loved listening to you talk because it's giving me 1,000 ideas. But like I said, I
Aw.
talk about this thing called the never ending to-do list. And I also teach other Shopify store owners how to use SEO to grow their store. And like you mentioned earlier, we don't just talk about SEO, we talk about user experience, we talk about brand, we talk about, all the elements that make a business great, including customer service. That's a lost art. But I remember it was my friend Rachel who told me about that. Is that Ikigai? Is that how you pronounce that?
I believe that's how you
Okay,
pronounce it,
yeah, my
yeah.
friend, but as you're talking, maybe I could make a GPT that is like the never-ending to-do list that trains it to say, "Find things that overlap, use the principles of the Ikigai."
Convenient.
Because that to me is one of the most powerful things about ChatGPT is it
Mm.
synthesizes these things that we want to do to work smarter, but we forget that either we had the idea or we don't have time to really do the analysis to where we can implement it, moving forward. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. That was how I kind of connected it to something that I had worked on before and also a goal that I had for the future. So just wonderful idea.
I'm looking to get better at the whole Ikigai stuff. I remember I was just like watching just YouTube videos and kind of learning a little bit more about it. Wasn't really that into it, but it stayed in the back of my mind in terms of because everybody has different process of Ikigai. I've noticed when I was watching YouTube videos, some people were doing, like I mentioned, the list and trying to find the center, like where should my time be more spent? And so many different people find this philosophy in and of itself very useful. So it definitely worth exploring that method and is worth exploring what this really is, both historically, philosophically, culturally, what this means to kind of give you context of whether this is something that you want to do and then apply it to some of your, long list of things that you need to do to try to find areas where, hey, I'm here overthinking, but three of these things overlap. Now I have less things to do
Yeah.
because I can now combine a lot of the stuff I need to do. So
And
definitely.
recognizing our energy levels, like
Mm.
everything is connected. So even though we have a to-do list that may be geared towards business, there may be times where we're thinking, I would really like to go for a walk today, or incorporate a time to get up and move every day, get away from my computer for about 10 minutes. We always think we don't have time, but then there's the times where we're like, hey, I have 10 minutes. Wouldn't it be nice to go to your chat and say, "Hey, I've got 10 minutes and this is how I'm feeling. What's something off my to-do list that I could knock out that really aligns with how I feel right now?" Because how we feel
Mhm.
changes all the time. So I love
Time.
the application of
Mm.
that and just that reminder of, "Hey, this is who you are. This is who you said you wanted to be." And just because you don't have the mental capacity to remember that all the time, that technology can come in and help us with that, to be that best person.
Absolutely. There's a plus size
Yeah.
to technology.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
Yeah. My whole thing is like, how do we optimize our lives? Like we're always worried about optimizing websites, optimizing a business, but I want to live an optimized life. I told you what happened to me in 2020. I don't want to just use technology and then have more time to do more work. So how do you guard against that even for yourself? It's like, okay, if you can harness the power of technology to help you work more efficiently, how can you use that to optimize your life?
Well, number one, I have boundaries. I know what I like and what I don't like. I try my best to cut myself some slack about it as well because sometimes I feel subconscious of having boundaries because the world makes you sometimes feel bad for having self-respect. It is the weirdest thing. And it's kind of like, no, you got to stay true to that. If that's what you want to do, don't let somebody else make you feel bad about it. And one of those things that I do to optimize my life, funny enough, is to balance out my time with technology. Because as efficient as technology can make you, it could also hold you back on a lot of things. And one of the ways that I try to balance that out is like, where is my time with technology? Where's my time best spent? And instead, what I do is I'm not on social media all that much. It doesn't matter whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or or even YouTube. I try to not do too much of the social media stuff. And instead, if I am going to be in front of the computer, if I am going to be in front of my phone, find apps and find other technology that are better for what I'm trying to do. We were talking about ChatGPT, right? We were talking about Claude and Gemini's and these LLMs and how they can help. I'd rather spend my time there, maybe learning how to make a process much more efficient, maybe how to automate certain process in our work or how to automate a certain workflow because, it's a redundant task. Those kind of things, I'd rather spend more time on that than, scrolling through an endless feed that never ends. So I try to balance it, right? I try to optimize my life by having time away from actual technology and actually using that time to read a book, to read an article, to maybe spend some time with family, spend some time with myself, just quiet. You know what I mean? Be with my cats, learn from their wisdom because I love cats. I love animals in general. And sometimes we forget that they're there and they have something to say. They may not be able to say it verbally, but they're great companions. And so spending time with them is also something that I do to optimize myself. So minimizing the technology, despite the technology making my life a little bit more efficient, is how I optimize myself for sure.
Okay, so our time is dwindling down, but we have to do the rapid fire Q&A before we pop off here. Okay, this conversation, we're going to
Sounds
have to
good.
talk again in the future because we didn't even get to like YouTube SEO and content.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to come
Yeah,
back.
this was amazing. I've got 9 questions for you, unless you answer differently to number 2, and then I'll ask you number 3. Okay, and if you want to follow up later or something, we definitely could do that.
Yeah.
All right. So, question number 1: SEO, GEO, IDC, or IDK?
SEO?
SEO is dying. Yes or no?
It's not.
Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, or something else?
Oh, oh. ChatGPT at the end of the day.
Best use case for AI in SEO?
Automation.
AI agents, hype or breakthrough?
Breakthrough.
Google AI overviews, good, bad, or ugly?
Ugly. Very ugly.
Jobs in SEO that AI is most likely to take in 2026.
I don't know yet. I don't think I can answer that question.
Fair enough. Jobs least likely to be taken.
Content.
Best AI powered app for SEO that no one knows about yet.
Repeat that question.
Best AI powered app for SEO that no one knows about.
It could be any app. Doesn't matter. I like using Monica.
Ooh, yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with you, follow you or whatever, where shall we send them?
Come to my LinkedIn. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm most likely to respond. And also, it's where I reach out to the community. And there's a wonderful community there, amazing SEOs. And yeah, you can follow me there.
Awesome. Well, Ana de la Cruz, this was so much fun. Oh my goodness. Like I'm buzzing. I have so much energy now. I can't wait to go back and listen to the episode. So thank you for being here with us today and just sharing all of your insights. Can't wait to have you back on.
Absolutely. Happy to come back.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast.
Thank you, Crystal.